You're right. It does take a lot of courage to kind of step out and start your own thing. But I put courage in two boxes. There's like the loud courage, I would call it, and then the more quiet courage, right? So loud courage being a thing that is visible to people, right? Like you saw that I started my own firm. You do have to be brave in that respect to put yourself out there. But quiet courage, I think, is what got me to that step and what is sustaining me thus far. So that really, to me, looks more like self-trust, trusting that I made the right decision, trusting that now I'm doing something that is more in alignment with my purpose, trusting that I am building a company that I feel is good and is honest, that I'm providing value to people, and just really keeping in line with that energy, even when I'm not getting feedback, right? I think that's the hard part. Someone once told me early in my career, the lawyer is where the idea goes to die. Like once the idea hits the lawyer's door, that's when it's going to die. But I like to say it's not a no, it's a how. So figuring out how you can still do what you want to do in a way that is compliant, in a way that makes sense, in a way that reduces your risks and still gets you a similar result. It may not look exactly the way that you wanted it to look initially, but this is how it can look. Really just trust yourself. We tend to, or I would say I tend to have kind of premonitions of things that I want to do, and then I will hold off on them for whatever reason until I feel ready. Sometimes I just don't think that waiting period is necessary because you're going to need to learn what you're going to learn along the way. And it's really just trusting yourself. You know, everyone always says we have one life to live, and it's true. And we're the only ones responsible for living that life. And I feel like we almost owe it to ourselves to see how expansive our life can be. Take a chance on yourself. Just do it, honestly.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Will Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Princess Uchekwe. Princess is the founder and managing attorney at the Chief Counsel. It's a fractional general counsel firm for startups and emerging companies. And before starting this, Princess spent 7 years at Eldridge, a leading investment firm where she served as director and legal counsel. And during her time there, she played a key role in advising private equity and credit transactions across entertainment, technology, and real estate. One of the things I love about what it says on your website, I think, Princess, is that you bet on yourself and went out on your own. So we're going to talk about that and more today. So welcome to the Will Podcast.
Thank you so much, Elena. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation today.
Excellent. Me too. Back to like your law school days and what motivated you to go to law school and go into the practice to begin with.
I feel sometimes kind of silly saying this, but I have always wanted to be a lawyer since I was a child. I was one of those people who knew from the get that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I set up my entire life to do just that. So going into law school, I knew I wanted to do things in media and entertainment. So actually, before I got to law school, I had a legal internship at BET. My entire law school personal statement was about helping creators of the entertainment industry and like protecting their rights. Even before law school, I was like learning a lot about fashion law and kind of the parameters around that. So it really has been one of my dreams that I'm really happy that I got the opportunity to live out.
Nice. What has the reality of being a lawyer been like for you after achieving that long-held dream of becoming one?
It has been much of the same, right? I knew prior to going in that I wanted to be more in an in-house role just because I had that in-house experience beforehand. And while I was in law school, I did a lot of in-house internships as well. So I was like at AMC Networks. I did a stint at the JVC, which is the Jewelers Vigilance Committee, and they do a lot around jewelry in the fashion industry. So I was really, really grateful. After I graduated, I started in-house almost immediately. That's really non-traditional for a lot of law students to get an in-house position right out of law school because we're told that you need firm experience first before diving into in-house. So in terms of doing corporate legal work, transactional work, that's the type of work that I'd like to do. And that's the type of work that I've been doing my entire career. And now in my own firm, that's the work that I do continue to do. It's very collaborative. Business issues change day to day. Variety is the spice of life, and you get a lot of variety when you are doing transactional work.
I love it. You know, one of the ironies, right, is that my business is called Will Women Interested in Leaving Law, but often, like most of the women I work with, many end up staying in the practice or opening their own firms or just practicing in a more non-traditional way. But it's such a great acronym. It really started as Women Interested in Leaving Big Law. So it's right. It's interesting. You never went into like traditional firm work, but you went right in-house. What do you think? Do you feel like you missed out on anything by not being in a big firm from what you know of the experience from your law firm friends and colleagues?
So I will say yes and no. If you look at the long game, I would say no. I think I'm in a better position now for sure. But short game, in terms of maybe some of the training that you'd have gotten, since I was one of like the youngest lawyers at my firm when I started, I had to learn a lot of things on my own. And when you're in-house, you just are expected to get in and go, right? So there are not that many like training opportunities. People are not really going to hold your hand. So I will say the beginning of my career, it was a very, very steep learning curve. Yeah. But because I had involvement in things pretty early on and things that were pretty material, I think that has shaped my career today. It's a double-edged sword, but if I were to do it again, I think I would still choose the route that I went.
Great. Let's talk about your business now. Because I mean, I love talking to female entrepreneurs, and I actually have a side project I'm starting. I call it Business Clairvoyance Coaching, because I've been...
Oh,
I know, right? Ooh. Everyone's like, ooh, tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more.
Well, I've been an entrepreneur for probably 18 years now, and a coach 18 years, and an entrepreneur probably about 15, and with my own businesses. And I was in a business previously, and I've taken a bajillion courses and masterminds and programs. And I feel like I've gotten my own like MBA in marketing. And then, so I've been on many group calls, and I get these like downloads when I'm talking to other people about how they could streamline their businesses, or I see how their marketing could be more effective and like really speak in a much more simple language. It's so much easier to do it for other people than it is to do for myself. I will be fully transparent about that. I'm always working on figuring out how I can say things more effectively, show up in a bigger, brighter, more authentic way in my own marketing. But I love talking to people about their businesses is really the bottom line. So, but I get like these kind of clairvoyant downloads for people. And I am also working on cultivating my own clairvoyance and intuitive skills and gifts.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to definitely hearing more about that.
Because being in business on your own can be lonely, right? It's a ride. So tell us about the Chief Counsel, your fractional GC offerings and platform, and tell us about that.
Sure. So it's a fractional general counsel services firm. So we provide in-house legal services to small and medium-sized businesses. So anything from their contract needs, their commercial needs, if they are in their pre-acquisition phase, advising them through the M&A process, anything to do with intellectual property, really a general counsel's role that we do there.
So what made you decide to go out from a much more stable, steady thing to go out on your own?
One of these things where I say, I've wanted to do this for a really, really long time, and I just did not have the courage to do it. It's funny that you asked this question because I was talking to one of my friends about this, and I mentioned how in 2019, I literally formed an entity. And then like COVID hit, and there was so much uncertainty. And then I got like really, really comfortable in my job. But there was still kind of like a nagging feeling within me that like, okay, maybe you should just try to do your own thing. And I think in my previous position, I'd been there for about 7 years. And I got to a point where things were just a little bit like mundane. I wasn't feeling the excitement about my work as I was feeling before. And it's like, okay, I think I should just do what I wanted to do. Like, why are you holding this off? And I said, doesn't work out. There's always a way out. You can always go back to corporate, but try. Like, why not just try it?
So I'm seeing a theme for you, which is like you have a vision or a desire for something that you want to do, like go to law school, you achieve that. And then within you, you had a dream of having your own. That nudge kind of went away and then came back. It wouldn't let you go, it sounds like. Does that feel true?
That's exactly right. It's funny that you say it's a vision because it literally is exactly right. I'm very goal oriented. right? And once I set a goal for myself, that goal is going to happen. It's either going to happen now or it's going to happen later, but it's going to be completed. So I think once that seed is planted, it really is just a matter of time before my mind, my body kind of aligns with what that purpose is. But it never really goes away.
So I like to say to the Will members, the women I work with, the women lawyers who are trying to figure out what they really want to do, that desire, here's my post-it note, desire is a direction. And that also our desires are safe guidance. Like, I feel like they're divinely given. Your seed to start the Chief Counsel was yours. And we each have our own seeds that are growing at different rates and kind of popping through the surface at different times in our life. What do you think about that?
I think that's true. With every step that you take in your life, you know within you that you're supposed to take that step. But it's a matter of whether you trust that that step is going to work out, or you trust that you're in a position to execute. You have to come to terms with yourself and, your value and what you have to offer and your skills to know that you can take that leap. Because staying where you are is comfortable, right? Even starting my own firm, one of the things is it's a lot of work. When you start your own company, what you're essentially doing is giving up one nice steady job to get 5 jobs where you're not getting paid.
Not only 5 jobs where you're not paid, but maybe 5 jobs that you're not really good at also, because maybe you're good at doing the Chief Counsel thing, but you're like not great at billing or posting on social media or whatever, marketing and networking and outreach you have to do when you're starting a business.
Absolutely. You have to be the visionary. You have to be the accountant. You have to be the marketer. You have to be the sales girl. And all of those roles are different roles within a company for a reason. So it's true. When people say that starting your own business is hard, I think that really put it into perspective for me, because you really do have 5 jobs.
At least 5 jobs. And do you have any administrative or tech support, or are you still wearing all the hats? Or are you still doing everything?
So I have one member on my team that's pretty much full-time, but she does content, right? And then I've outsourced my accounting functions and my tech functions as well. I did cobble together my own website, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Beautiful. Also,
thank you. So just really outsourcing the rest of the functions until things are a little bit more steady and I can actually implement systems that make sense for the business.
See, these are all the things that we learn through entrepreneurship, how to do that and how to let go. But I want to go back a little bit, because it took a lot of courage for you to step out of that steady gig. And I'm curious what your mindset was. Like, what were the thoughts you were telling yourself at that time?
You're right. It does take a lot of courage to kind of step out and start your own thing. But I put courage into boxes. There's like the loud courage, I would call it, and then the more quiet courage, right? So loud courage being a thing that is visible to people, right? Like you saw that I started my own firm. You do have to be brave in that respect to put yourself out there. But quiet courage, I think, is what got me to that step and what is sustaining me thus far. So that really, to me, looks more like self-trust, trusting that I made the right decision, trusting that now I'm doing something that is more in alignment with my purpose, trusting that I am building a company that I feel is good and is honest, that I'm providing value to people, and just really keeping in line with that energy, even when I'm not getting feedback, right? I think that's the hard part. When you're not getting like constant validation, you're not getting like constantly celebrated, you still have to move forward. One thing that has really helped me is just like knowing like you are providing something that people do need. People are being receptive. So even if you're not hearing this every day, like what you are doing is important. So you should keep building it.
100%. That was beautiful. I love that. The kind of louder, more visible courage. And then the inner really North Star that's like, no, I'm on the right track, right? You don't have a boss who's saying, good job. No one externally is saying, atta girl. When you hit those milestones, you have to celebrate yourself. Or if you're working with a coach or in a mastermind or something, you might get that from your peers. So all business is solve problems, right? This is one of the things I say. Many of the women lawyers I work with also want to start businesses. So I've been doing business coaching within Will also, called Willpreneurs. And one of the things I love to say is all businesses solve problems. How would you identify the problems that you solve for your clients?
The very base level, they are all legal problems. But what I seek to do on a more fundamental level is to make sure that people are making decisions with clarity and confidence. I work with a lot of founders, whether they're like first-time founders or secondary founders who, just like me, and I'm finding out right now, they just have so much to do. And maybe they've been trying to be scrappy and do legal all on their own. In the back of their mind, they're probably like, I don't really know what it is that I'm doing, but I'm just trying to get money in the door and get people to sign up and use my services or like buy my products, and whatever happens, happens, right? Especially as these companies are growing, they kind of need a little bit more direction. And with the people that I'm working with, what I'm finding is that our partnership has really flourished in the education that I'm providing them, like peace of mind that I'm providing them, right? Like I can look at a term sheet and explain to you really in plain English what it is that you're signing up for, why you're going to need to give on certain things and why you can push back on certain things and what it's going to take to get the deal done, right? And then you can kind of decide whether or not you're comfortable with that. I had a deal today that absolutely just blew up because the founder that I was working with was not okay. It's like absolutely not okay what the other side was putting forth. And they were just kind of like, I get it. Maybe this is not the right opportunity. If this is what this means for me, I'm happy to find something else. And I was like, okay, sword.
So you're providing them that peace of mind, security, knowledge that they vetted the opportunities or the contracts or whatever. So really helping them sleep at night, knowing that their legal matters are sorted, well taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think as like in-house counsel, you have to have like two hats, right? Like you have to have your business hat and then you have to have your legal hat. The value of in-house counsel really is to be a strategic partner to the business. There's this delicate dance you have to do between advancing business objectives and also being mindful of risk. And that could be internal risk when you're thinking about your employees and your operations. And if you make this decision, how is it going to be communicated? How are people going to feel? And then external risk. So to outside parties, if you make a decision, how's that going to look or how's that going to be perceived? Or what liabilities are you subject to if you do that? You have to be pretty solution oriented when you do have this role, and you have to be a very, very good communicator because sometimes it's not about providing the solution. It's providing a new perspective, right? So that people can understand these are your parameters, right? And this is how you can play inside of them. If you don't want to explore this option, these are other things that you can do. That's a balance.
Totally. A lot of the women I work with also are in-house counsel, and they want to figure out what else they can do, either in law or make their jobs work better for them. And one of the things they struggle with is being perceived as a cost center or being like being perceived as like legal just says no. So how are you experiencing any of that with your clients? It sounds like that's the line you're talking about, like how to be that strategic counsel and advance the business, but also mitigate risk. I'm curious, like how you encounter that and if you have frustrations around that, how you overcome that. Because I think that'll be helpful to a lot of people in-house.
Someone once told me early in my career, the lawyer is where the idea goes to die. Like once the idea hits the lawyer's door, that's when it's going to die. But I like to say it's not a no, it's a how.
That's good copy. If that's not on your website, that is very good copy. It's not a no, it's a how. That's good copy.
I'm going to quote myself on that one. And that's really what I was talking about earlier when I said a change in perspective, right? So figuring out how you can still do what you want to do in a way that is compliant, in a way that makes sense, in a way that reduces your risks and still gets you a similar result. It may not look exactly the way that you wanted it to look initially, but this is how it can look.
Beautiful. You must have a lot of very strong communication skills. You've referenced it a few times. Do you know your strengths finder, your top 5 strengths finder? Have you ever done that assessment?
I know, but I will say I do have good communication skills. I have heard that a lot. And I do work on that a lot because I think that your delivery is very, very important. I always say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Because when you say something, it's not only the words that you're saying it's really how the person is going to receive it. And to be able to really just craft your communication, you have to know who you're dealing with, right? Like there are people who like being straight shot, no chaser. Like, just tell me what it is. Don't give me the fluff, whatever. And there's some people who need a little bit of cushioning. They need a little bit of storytelling. They need examples. And that's how they like to receive information. So you really have to know who you're dealing with and how they like to be communicated.
Beautiful. If you ever do your strengths study, if you want the information on it, I can give it to you. And it's the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment. They've changed the name, but one of the top 5 strengths. And then you have people focus on your top 5, which is, I think, what you're doing. Also in your business, you've outsourced a lot of the things that are not your top strengths. You're really honing in, sounds like, on your client services, on your communication, on being that sounding board. One of the top, there are 34 strengths, and one is communication. I bet that's in your top 5.
Oh, thank you.
I want to get back to something you said a few minutes ago about like kind of infusing your business with this very profound intention. It's almost like the soul of your business that you have to tend to and hold in your communications, in your marketing, in your content, in your client relations. That was really beautiful. I was really touched by that.
Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to ask if you feel like that's an intentional thing that you do. And if so, how you tend to that as you're growing your business?
I think it is one of the things that I am really, I don't want to say strict about, but I just want to make sure that 1, I'm doing something that is valuable, and 2, that I'm taking other people's needs and consideration into account when I'm doing things. It is intentional in that respect, right? So for my company, for example, we have like 4 pillars: clarity, cohesion, competence.
The start at the beginning again. What was the first one?
So clarity,
cohesion.
Clarity, cohesion, collaboration, and competency.
Okay, there you go. Worksheet.
And that's really what I want. I want people to walk out with legal clarity, right? So you know kind of what your rights and your obligations are. You know what your options are. You know what the possible outcomes of your decisions can be, so that when you are making decisions, you're making that with confidence. All of your steps are pretty much outlined for you. In terms of collaboration and cohesion, making sure that we're on the same page, making sure that we're working with each other, we're communicating what our needs are, what you expect. Expectations are a really, really big thing for me. And having a clear vision. So the clearer the vision of the founder is to me, the better I can do my job. And doing my job is really where that competence portion comes in, right? Like making sure I can deliver the best services under the circumstances.
So those are really your guiding posts, like those guiding pillars for you to keep that, to tend to the soul of your business, which really I do believe our businesses, when we're entrepreneurs and there is some of our soul that goes into our businesses. I think if it's done right.
It's a good compass to lead by. And it's something that I thought a lot about, because in the future, I do plan to scale, but I still want the integrity of what I've built to remain intact. And for that to be a reality, the people that I bring on need to know what these values are, and that these are the values that govern the work that we do. And
so what is your vision? You'd like to scale. What is your vision for your business?
That's not like I want to build the biggest law firm on the planet Earth, because I think there is strength and intimacy, but a couple more lawyers I think would be good, maybe like up to a team of 10, and we'll see how it goes from there, because I think that is like a good control group, because the bigger an organization gets, and I've seen this just in my career, like the more things start to change.
I think there's in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books where he talks about like after 150 people, something changes in an organization, in a community. If you had 10 lawyers or 10 people, like, so that's great. And you're based here in New York City, right? And do you serve people all over the country? And like, who are your ideal clients also? I mean, I think we kind of covered that, but if there was any more specificity you wanted to add to that, I'd love to hear it.
Sure. So I serve clients in California and New York for now, but as we scale, we will expand that. Industry-wise, the practice really is industry agnostic. And I see that just because when you're working with companies, there's a specific skill set that you need when you're working with different companies. And I think just in my previous roles too, since I worked with companies that were in all various different industries, if you know how to learn quickly, if you know how to do a market analysis and learn about an industry, if the team that you're working with is very, very clear on what their business goals are in terms of quarterly goals, yearly goals, if they have a 5-year plan, so that you can structure what their legal architecture may look like. That is very, very important. And then also communication, of course, is good. And then keeping abreast of like what legal regimes govern the industry.
Was there a type of person who's like your ideal kind of founder or CEO who's like, oh yeah, I really vibe with this kind of person? And like someone clearly who's a good communicator, who knows, who has a clear sense of their business. Why don't you share a story of like a great business collaboration or partnership that you've had? You don't have to name names, but just like the kind of person.
I will name one client in particular that I've been working with. She's very, very expansive. So she is running one company. She wants to open up a few other companies. So she's a very, very big thinker, but she's very, very good at interconnecting ideas or concepts, right? So she wants to leverage what she's learned in her first business to kind of start her second business. And she's also very good at productizing her services. So even though she has a business, she tries to figure out like different revenue streams that she can get off of one service, essentially, right? So like cutting that pie into so many different other avenues that is revenue producing. And I really like that because it's so creative, but also makes sense at the same time, right? You're not expanding yourself to a level where you're in so many different things. You're just being creative as to how you can optimize what you already have.
Love that.
And so kind of helping her kind of get together what those product lines are going to be and what those partnerships are going to look like is pretty exciting for me.
You're lit up as you talk about this collaboration.
That is pretty good. Another example that I will give, which is a little bit more sentimental to me, but when I'm working with people who I've known for a really, really long time, and like they've bet on themselves and they've like started their own business and they're thinking like, oh, like Princess, like I would love to work with you on this. And you have a personal relationship, but now it's transitioned into a business relationship where you're building something a little bit more. I think that's also quite special to me as well.
So what would you tell a woman lawyer who felt stuck, either kind of bored in their role, whether they're in-house or firm, and they've always had a dream of starting their own firm or business? What might you share with someone who's a few steps behind you? Not that there's a hierarchy to it, but just like who's in that place that's thinking about it.
Really just trust yourself. We tend to, or I would say I tend to have kind of premonitions of things that I want to do. And then I will hold off on them for whatever reason until I feel ready. Sometimes I just don't think that waiting period is necessary because you're going to need to learn what you're going to learn along the way. And it's really just trusting yourself. You know, everyone always says we have one life to live, and it's true. And we're the only ones responsible for living that life. And I feel like we almost owe it to ourselves to see how expansive our life can be. You don't need external validation. Like the fact that you want to do something, you want to step out, you want to try something new is validation on its own, because at least you know that there's at least a market of one for what you have to offer if you think it's important. Take a chance on yourself. Just do it, honestly. If you're worried about what other people have to say or what they're thinking, I promise you people are not really thinking about you the way that you think they are.
1,000%. Yes. And they might think about you for like 30 seconds. That might be it, right? Everyone's very concerned with themselves. That's how we're designed.
Very much so.
And it's something that really holds many women lawyers back. Like people will think I can't hack it. People will think less of me. And we're like, I once attended a workshop with Elizabeth Gilbert and I asked her a similar question. And she was like, believe me, no one is thinking about you.
So what if they are? You owe it to yourself to do what you want to do. Like even with me in my career before, even as a lawyer, I was a spin instructor for about like 2 years, right? And like people were like, how are you doing that? Like, who cares? It's something that I wanted to do and I did it and it's done. If you want to come to a spin class, great. If you don't, that's fine.
Are you still teaching? I'll come to one of your classes.
No, I'm retired now. It's just like one of these things, like just do what you want to do. Honestly, it's really your life and you're responsible for it. You're allowed to try new things. You're allowed to change who you are. You don't have to be in a box that someone put you in.
All right. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you, learn more about your services?
You can find me online, www.chiefcounsel.com. I'm on Instagram at the.chiefcounsel. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Come find Princess. Before the call, she was showing me her nails and that she does her nails herself. So they're really gorgeous. So like, and then she's also like sparkly and magical. They're perfect for a little summer magic. So thank you so much.
Level on nail moment.
Thank you for sharing your story and your courage with us. I really love that, like the outer courage and the inner courage, and feels like a little fire burning within you. So keep going. I'm happy to know you, happy to help share your story. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Will Podcast.
And thank you so much for having me, Elena.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Will Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please follow for more, rate and review to help another unhappy lawyer find her way here and see there's nothing wrong with her. You can also please share it with a friend. To learn more about how Will can guide you to clarity, freedom, and relief, go to www.womeninterestedinleavinglaw.com and book your confidential consultation. Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's get you on your way today.